I just want everyone to be realistic about those expectations. And if you are not used to that kind of communication style, Germany can be very off-putting. Hello and welcome. My name is Kendra und ich bin deine Lieblingsausländerin. Coming back to you with another video after quite some time, but that's neither here nor there. I'm back and I'm really excited to be back here on YouTube and to be able to chat with you guys a little bit more. It's now been 5.5 years since I moved to Germany, which is crazy to me because one, I never intended to stay this long, and two, I don't know, the time just kind of flies by. But this is also just generally something I notice as I get older. You just blink and time has already flown by. So that's actually one of the topics that I really want to touch on in this video and kind of catch you guys up on how life has been in Germany in these last 5+ years, and really just kind of reflect more on what my journey has been like here. Also, I just wanted to give a little bit more insight to people who are thinking about moving to Germany or just thinking about leaving their home country in general. There's a lot that I wish I had known going into the transition, and a lot that I wish I had known, but I didn't have anybody or any kind of like real resources to give me more insight into what I would experience. And that's also part of why I started this channel in the first place, was because I wanted to be able to give people the advice that I was looking for when I was first planning my move to Germany. So with that being said, let's just dive into some of the hard truths of living in Germany that I've come across in the last 5 years. The first one is that, and I know this one sounds cliche and people say it all the time, but it couldn't be more true. If you ever moved states or moved countries, then you know this to be true. And it's that moving is not going to solve your internal problem. Whatever it is that you're dealing with in Oklahoma, you're gonna bring it with you to France or to Thailand or to South Africa or wherever it is that you're going in the world. And I never really thought of my move to Germany as kind of fixing my internal problems, but there were certain things that I noticed that kind of persisted even though I left my home country and I left my city. For example, and I think all New Yorkers can relate to this, I'm very, what's the word I'm looking for? See, that's another hard truth of living in Germany. You forget words that you just stop using or that you just don't use as much. Just hypervigilant. And I have always been like a very hypervigilant person because in New York, you have to watch your back all the time. No matter where I go, I watch my back. And people here just are so lax sometimes, and I just wish I could be like that, but I'm just not naturally like that because I spend so much of my life in a high-stress environment. Things that you bring from your home country, you have to unlearn, and you have to be intentional about unlearning those things. Just changing your country will not make that stress go away, will not make those character traits go away. It might actually make them worse because now you're in an environment where you don't have your usual coping mechanisms. So don't think that Germany is going to fix your problems. Hard truth number 2. You might outgrow your host country. There was a point, especially where I was a student, where I thought life was just going to feel like a Euro summer forever. Now, I wasn't delusional about like what life was going to be like after school. I've worked full-time before, but for me, I've had my phases where it just feels like, okay, I'm really tired of Germany right now. I'm really like burnt out from living abroad. I'm burnt out from being an expat, having to speak another language. You can get to points where you just feel like, this is not for me. And that's totally okay. I'm fully of the belief that moving abroad doesn't mean it's a permanent decision. People jump from country to country all the time until they find the place that they want to settle in. And sometimes it just so happens that the place you thought would be your forever home or your long-term home is just not your home. Or sometimes it might be that you have to stay for one reason or another and you don't feel like you belong there. But I think a big part of that, trying not to compare the two all the time. Once you get out of that habit of constantly comparing the two, then things get easier. I'm the pot calling the kettle black because I constantly compare my home country to my host country. But I also know that neither will feel like the other one to me. And I kind of reached a point in my life where I feel like I need both. I've spent half of the last decade living a different kind of life than I lived for the vast majority of my life. Maybe living abroad is not a Euro summer, but there are a lot of things that you can kind of romanticize and that I've learned to romanticize about my life abroad. And there's so many days or weeks that pass by where it doesn't even register to me that I'm not in America. I have to really sit there and think, I just packed up all my things and moved to Germany by myself without knowing anybody, without having any like network connections, anything like that. I did it twice. And I have to remind myself of that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool that I live abroad. This is kind of cool that this is just my life and I go to work and I have my friends here and all of that stuff. So I think it really helped for me to stop thinking about my life in the day-to-day and the 9 to 5 and the schlepping to work and blah, blah, blah. And really started to appreciate the fact that I have this privilege. Feeling gratitude that you have the privilege to have done this thing. And also remembering that you chose this thing and you can unchoose this thing. Hard truth number 3, the German 3. Integration takes years, not months, years. First time I came to Germany, I spoke the language pretty well. B2 level. I have been studying German language and culture for the previous 2 years. I came to the country already kind of knowing quite a lot about Germany, already speaking the language pretty well. And then I moved here a year later and still did not feel integrated after that year. Then when I moved back, I was living someplace else, living in the South, understanding different culture, understanding different part of Germany. And everything that I learned when I lived in Berlin was obsolete because people that live in Bayern are completely different than people that live in Berlin. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. Even if you do spend your entire German experience or experience abroad in one city, integration is not going to happen in a few months. And I think people need to be realistic about that expectation. So one thing that I always say, people ask me in the work that I do and just in my conversations with and other internationals, if they need to speak German to move to Germany. And to me, that is a huge part of integration. Despite how many Germans speak English, despite the fact that you can work here in English, live here, and not speak a word of German in some parts of the country, that is a huge part of integration. And I would never say move to Germany without knowing German. That's just one aspect of the culture. You also have to learn people's communication styles, because Germans are very blunt and very direct. And if you are not used to that kind of communication style, Germany can be very off-putting. So that's why it can take quite a while to kind of get to know different people, get to know different situations and realize, okay, this is normal, this is what I can expect, this is how I should carry myself, and so on and so forth. I don't think integration necessarily means changing who you are, but just adapting to the local culture. There's just things I wouldn't do in Germany that I'm used to doing in the US because I've just adapted to the local culture. And there are some things that I will do regardless of where I live because that's just who I am as a person. But you can't expect that integration to happen in a matter of 2 or 3 months. I would say I first started to feel like I really belong in Germany maybe after 2 years. I just want everyone to be realistic about those expectations. The last hard truth about living in Germany, and this has a lot to do with transitioning to the day-to-day life in Germany, stability can feel empty if you're expecting excitement. Germany is a relatively stable country, so it's a good place to seek those kinds of things. But stability, and honestly, I don't even know if this is a living abroad hard truth. This is just a life fact. Stability can feel boring. It can feel stale. It can feel like, where's my Euro summer? I'm going to keep quoting the Euro summer. Why doesn't life feel like a Euro summer? This is what you more than likely have been chasing since you came to Germany. And that's something I had to remind myself when I started to feel like, okay, I'm not constantly in survival mode anymore. Now what? Girl, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted the whole time. This is what you've been chasing. And again, it's a privilege thing, and realizing you have the privilege to be able to feel stable. And this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of months. It's just realizing how grateful I am that I've achieved the thing that I wanted to achieve. Something that I would have never, ever 7 years ago, 8 years ago, was something that I would actually want. You have to find the joy in those smaller day-to-day things, and those things that make your life and your experience as an expat more unique. It's just, sometimes it's really just about the little things. So that's all I have. I hope this video was helpful to anybody who's considering moving abroad, who's considering moving to Germany. Well, I don't really feel like I'm a veteran yet. I meet so many people who've been here for 10 plus years, and I think like maybe 10 years is when I would feel like a veteran. But I have a great deal of experience living in Germany, living here as a student, as an au pair, and now just as a regular person working and paying taxes and paying rent and enjoying my rent and filming in my own apartment so that I can bring you guys the tips and the facts and advice and everything that you want to know about living in Germany. I'm happy to be able to get back on here and share a little bit more about my experiences and a little bit more about the ups and sometimes the downs of living in Germany, sometimes the hard facts, sometimes the things people don't want to admit, or the things people don't want to realize come along with the territory. In conclusion, I just want to say I'm really grateful for my experiences here. I'm really grateful for everything that I've had the opportunity to do and learn and see in Germany. But I would be remiss if I didn't say there are some challenges to living abroad. I don't want to focus too much on the challenges and the hard truths, but I think it's important to kind of go into things with the right mindset and with the right expectations. And then that way you really just end up finding your perfect version or your ideal version of home, and really what that looks like for you. It's different for everybody. I think I found mine. Let me know what you guys want to see. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about. I'm going to get on here and talk anyway, but if you guys tell me a little bit more about what it is that you want to hear from me, I'll be happy to set my little camera up and talk more about my life in Germany and your travels around Europe and everything. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Auf Wiedersehen.